And so fasting's not about being Superman. Like the other traditions before, they used to try to really prolong their fast to try to show I'm strong. That's not the purpose. We're supposed to eat in order to make it easy for us. So fasting's not about being hard. It's about trying to facilitate things for you as much as you can. Okay. Acts that break the fast and require penalty. So breaking the fast intentionally without a valid reason. In the Hanafi school, if you don't make an intention before the sahur, you intentionally say I'm not fasting, and then you break it, there's no kafara. You with me? So say you were a young teenager and you never made any intention to break that fast, there's no kafara for that eating in that day. You have to have an intention before sahur, and then nonchalantly, with that disregard for the day, say I'm eating. There's a kafara now if you reach puberty. Does that make sense? Okay? So you obviously got to make those days up, but there's no kafara for those days you didn't. If you were a teenager and you just said I'm not fasting, you never made intention, there's no kafara. Okay? In the Maliki school there is. So imagine that if you never, for every day there's a kafara. That's impossible. How could you do 60 days? Do the maths. In the Shafi'i school, there's no kafara for anything except for sexual relations in Ramadan. There's a huge dispensation there. Okay? In the Hanafi school, they say no, you've got to have made intention before, and then you broke it in the day with complete disregard for the day. Yeah? Then you've got to make a kafara. 2 consecutive months. But say you did that for a number of times in your lifetime, you did that. There's still only one kafara. But say then you did a kafara on one day and you did it a second time, you've got to do another kafara obviously. But there's only ever one kafara even for a number of days if you haven't already done a kafara for it. Does that make sense? Okay? Does that make sense, Zainab? So say you didn't fast, you broke your fast a number of times in the day when you were a kid. So you would have to have made the intention. You have to have made the intention of the day and then nonchalantly broken it with disregard for the day. So there was 5 days you did that in your childhood. There's only one kafara. You only have to do one kafara. That's what, it covers all of them. Even if you were to have done it 100 times, you only have to do one kafara. But then, say you did a kafara for one of those days and then you did it again, then obviously you've got to do another kafara. It's a bit like the sujood for the verses of Quran. You could read it 100 times, you only have to do one sujood for it. But if you kept doing sujoods after each time, then obviously. Does that make sense? I'm still not convinced. Yeah. Basically, there's no... So if you had done it loads of days, you only have to do one kafara. No, throughout your lifetime. So you could have done that on countless number of Ramadans, broken the fast nonchalantly, with disregard, you only have to do one kafara of 2 consecutive months. There can't be any break between that. A woman's excused for her period, but men, if they make a mistake and break the fast, they have to start all over again. Okay, that's why you should make sure an Eid doesn't fall between those 2 months. So I recommend you do it in the winter months at the moment if you're to do it. Some scholars recommend you do it once in your lifetime just in case you did it, you know. Okay, that's up to the choice of the person.
Is that the case if you, for example, when it's on an end of Ramadan and you mix it like the fast because it's fast that she's making up?
Good question, this. What I think you're saying here is, did you get the question? So say she's making up a prayer of a fast of Ramadan because she was on her period in Ramadan, and then she just breaks it nonchalantly. Does she have to do a kafara? No. Because it's got to be in the month. That's an excellent question. That. Yeah? So, where are we? Yeah, so breaking the fast intentionally without a valid reason. So you've got to have that attitude, forget it. Or just a really, like my friend that ate cereal because he missed his sihri. That's just not valid, that's just silliness. Okay, you have to fast 60 consecutive days, 2 consecutive months, or if you can't do that, feed 60 people 2 meals a day. Okay, most people can attempt it. If they were fasting, they can attempt it because they're fasting. Acts that break and do not require penalty. Eating, drinking, or inhaling something accidentally, that breaks your fast. So the thing is, forgetfully doesn't break your fast, accidentally does. People mix these two. So here I am, and I'm fasting, and someone gives me a drink, and I go, oh my God, I'm fasting. Is your fast invalid? No, because you drank what? Forgetfully. You thought you weren't fasting at that point. At the point. Now, I'm making wudu. Oh my God. So you knew you were fasting and you accidentally got the water down your throat. Does that break your fast? Yes. Because when you did it, you weren't forgetful. You knew you were fasting. But you did it accidentally. So accidental effects break the fast. There's no kafara, there's no penalty. You just have to make up that day. That doesn't mean for the rest of the day, oi, down to Mackie D's, I'll get my fillet of fish. Okay? Well, you have to still respect the day, but you have to make up that day. Okay? So accidentally, so you're conscious that it's Ramadan, but you accidentally break your fast, it breaks your fast. If you do it forgetfully, Sheikh Faraz Rabbani had this funny story at an airport, and someone gave him a coffee, knocked it back, he went, oh my God, I'm fasting. He forgot. Then about 10 minutes later, he had another one. He had, I think it was like 3 times. The fasting must have been really affecting his mind. Basically, he's still fasting. He had 3 cups of coffee as freebies. On the house, Allah gave him it on the house. And so that's forgetfully. Mistake, accidentally, no. Okay? It's a fine distinction. Yeah. Eating, drinking and inhaling something accidentally breaks your fast. Forcing oneself to vomit more than a mouthful breaks your fast. So if you stick your fingers down your throat and you vomit more than a mouthful, it breaks your fast. But if it's less than a mouthful, it doesn't, even forcefully. Okay? So a bit of heartburn coming up, that reflux, going back down, doesn't break your fast. Is that clear?
That type of breaking, is that kafara, is it or not?
This is the principle. Kafara is only when you... So if you stick your fingers down your throat... No, I don't think it is. No. Kafara has to be eating something of nutrition and do that. That's not,
But that's like intentional.
Yes, it's intentional, but a kafara has to have something about certainty. It's like hudud. There's got to be some sort of benefit for you doing it for a kafara. Okay? Vomiting, there's no benefit in vomiting. Okay? So there's no kafara on it, but you have to make it up. Swallowing blood from one's gums or teeth that predominates one's saliva. So if your saliva is basically red and you swallow that, it breaks your fast. That's a bit of a tough issue for some people who have bleeding gums. Okay, so you try to spit as much as you can. If it's a slight residue, so obviously, when you're making wudu, you're going to have residue in your mouth, isn't it? That doesn't break your fast, obviously. You've got to actually feel like some water go down your throat. So if it's just residue, and you've got doubt, you've got to have certainty. If it's a doubt, it hasn't broken your fast. Okay. Did you have a question on whether that there?
Just trying to get my head on the accidental stuff. Have you got another example of the
Yeah. So accidentally. So that's the best issue. The best example I can give is that because you're being cautious, you're trying to stop the water going down your nose, but it does go down. You actually know you're fasting here. You're just being cautious, and you go, but accidentally it goes down your throat.
Yeah.
That breaks your fast.
Yeah.
Forgetfully is where you're not even aware you're fasting. You just go, oh, that's a nice donut. Ooh. Now you have to stop at that point. You can't go, oh, I'm still forgetting. Yeah. The Krispy Kreme donuts. Yeah. Okay. We all know that we love those Krispy Kremes. And you can't, once you remember, oh, I'm not fasting. Before, no, you can't do that. Does that make sense? Okay, it is a fine line between the two. Yeah. So that's the best example I think of, is that, yeah. And that's why you shouldn't gargle. Some of the Hanafi scholars, Indo-Pacs believe when you're having a ghusl, you have to gargle. It's a fard to gargle. It's that, that you've got to swish. There's no gargling. And it's definitely when you're fasting, you can't gargle, because there's a high risk that you end up swallowing by mistake. That will break your fast as well. Okay.